Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the O'Malley versus Dvalishvili fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do indeed like video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, O'Malley is 18-1 with 12 KOs and 1 submission, and Dvalishvili is 17-4 with 3 KOs and 1 submission. This fight's for the UFC bantamweight title. O'Malley's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Vera, and Dvalishvili's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Cejudo. O'Malley is 5'9", and Dvalishvili is 5'5", and to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I say, this is the first show in the sphere ever, the first combat sports show. I believe there might have been like a WWE one, but first proper combat sports show there. And so in general, I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to make for an amazing atmosphere, an amazing show. Hopefully it will be. This main event is an attraction in which I've been looking forward to for a long time. I mean, since Dvalishvili stole O'Malley's jacket, like, was it about a year ago or something, before the Sterling fight, that helped sell the fight for me even more, and since then I've been really excited for it. So in general, I think it's two guys who are quite differing in styles, most definitely, but as people they're both quite different. I mean, O'Malley's seen as that relaxed American who's trying to act cool and everything like that, whereas Dvalishvili is kind of making fun of that type of character whilst also being quite lively, and of course he's from Georgia and everything like that, so he's not got fluent English, even though it is pretty good to be fair. But like I say, it plays for a good kind of archetype type characters in which a lot of people are favouring one or the other. And so yeah, in general it makes for an amazing matchup. And I think in general the card for a UFC first time being in Sphere, obviously it's Mexican Independence Day, I believe, so it's for Mexico, and there is a lot of Mexican fighters on it, which I respect a lot, and also in the same weekend as Canelo fight, and I think that does make sense. But I think there, if it wasn't for this main event, I think this is a really strong main event with two of the biggest draws, realistically, kind of entertainment character wise in UFC. I mean, when you kind of speak about two guys that don't really like each other and have a bit of a storyline, that's kind of what you can give that to them. And like I said, that helps sells the fight and helps sells the card. And yeah, in general, I think it's going to be an entertaining one, of course, and for this bantamweight title, in which O'Malley has now won and defended. And if he defends against Dvalishvili, it's looking like he's becoming a dominant champion. Would I like him to then move up and then fight like an Ilia Topuria? Probably not. I think I would like to see him fight one more time to defend his belt, because I feel like people are becoming really eager to try and move up in weight before they've really cleared out all the contenders, and I just don't necessarily know if it's a good idea. I mean, Leon Edwards was talking about it after what he won the belt versus Usman and then defended it versus Covington, and then he was speaking about moving up and fighting, but then he went and fought Muhammad. So I feel like you have to go through all of the contenders before you earn your kind of right to then go up and fight one of the other champions or anything like that. And so I don't think O'Malley will be quite there yet. I think maybe like a Nurmagomedov is somebody who seems really scary and really kind of difficult to deal with. And to be honest, if Dvalishvili wins or loses, I would like to see Nurmagomedov versus Dvalishvili, because I think their styles would clash to an extent and it would make for an entertaining fight, that one. But yeah, like I say, in general, this fight though, like I mentioned, very entertaining one. O'Malley last time, he's coming off that win, which was a very decisive victory for himself, a dominant victory for himself against Vera, where of course he was right in the wrongs of that defeat, which wasn't really a defeat. But he came in this one eager and determined to really prove that he was levels above, and he really did that. And obviously Vera lost to Sandhagen and has shown weaknesses in fights, but he completely shut him out and really was dominant on the feet and striking with him, and pretty much didn't really get caught with much in general against Vera. And yeah, it really showed that was, he is the champion. And to be honest, when you think about having your first title defense, you kind of don't really want it to go much better than that. You can't really go realistically much better than that. And so yeah, complete shutout. And Dvalishvili's last time though versus Cejudo, it was a fight in which really brought him along a lot and put him on that pedestal in which has shown that he's at a really high level competitor and is worthy of this title shot, and against Cejudo, who's one of the top guys in the division and has fought at such a high level, and question marks were still around if he could get back to that title contention, and he managed to dominate Dvalishvili realistically. I mean, there was that early bit in which he tried to stand and trade, and it wasn't really an amazing type of situation for him to be in, and he got caught and he got hurt, but then he recovered so well and was looking so dominant and got so comfortable and got really into a groove, and then just put on a show realistically. I mean, it was only a 3-round fight, but what he was doing when he was lifting Cejudo up, when he was sticking his tongue out to Zuckerberg and everything like that, it's entertaining, and it's obviously a style in which perhaps could be argued as a bit more maybe boring to an extent, because there's not really a lot of striking, and there's a lot of wrestling and grappling, but he makes it entertaining, which is what you want to see. And of course, he is the much smaller fighter going into this one. I think that could play a factor. I believe against Cejudo, obviously he was a similar type of fight, and I think that helped him to an extent when he was trying to rush in and get them takedowns. But O'Malley being the much bigger fighter, perhaps it might make it easier for him to be able to grab onto one of his limbs because they're longer, or it might make it more predictable when he is trying to come in and grapple. We'll have to wait and see. Also on this card though, I mean, there's a couple good fights in which I wanted to speak about, being the first one, Gracie versus Shevchenko 3 for the UFC flyweight title, in which I think Gracie will win via submission in round 4. I mean, they're coming off 2 excellent fights, to be completely honest. I mean, the first one, I have Shevchenko winning, of course, until Gracie managed to get that submission, and Shevchenko just made mistakes and kind of did the similar type of mistakes in the second fight, in which cost her at times, and I think Shevchenko could have made the fight a bit more easier for herself, but wanted to make it entertaining, and Gracie is a hard fighter to be able to deal with. She's explosive, she wants to fight at high tempo, and Shevchenko came into that second one a bit more aggressive, and it was an amazing fight, that second one. I mean, it pretty much had everything you realistically want, but Shevchenko just doing little mistakes, and Gracie was capitalising upon every single one. That's why I believe she can get another submission into the later rounds again. I can believe that the styles will match up again and it will make for another entertaining contest. But like I mentioned, I think Gracie is going to be able to be, like I say, just be able to get the submission, be able to do a bit more and capitalise upon a Shevchenko mistake, in which I believe probably will end up happening. And then also Ortega versus Lopez, in which I think Lopez will win via TKO in round 2. That's quite a bold statement, to be honest, but it seems like Lopez is always realistically looking for some sort of stoppage or some sort of destructive way of winning. Obviously, last time out he was meant to fight Ortega, but then Ige came in on stupidly short notice, which was crazy, to be honest. But he did really well, Ige, to be fair to him, but Lopez was still looking good. I think he did tire into the later rounds, in which I think Ortega typically improves into the later rounds, so he might be able to find some success into the later rounds. But I think Ortega is going to walk onto shots and probably going to get hurt doing that, like he did against Rodriguez, but I just don't think he's going to be able to deal with it when Lopez jumps on him, and I just don't think he'll be able to weather the storm again like he did against Rodriguez, and that's why I mean Lopez winning by an early stoppage. And then going back to the main event to speak about O'Malley, first of all, the champion as a fighter. Of course, he's sharp, he's very fluid with his movements. That's the style in which he likes to play up to. That's the kind of character realistically he is. He's calm, he's relaxed, he's fluid, he's kind of all able to move just so smoothly and everything like that, and it makes for an entertaining style. It makes for a nice to watch style realistically when it all kind of comes off. He's got them fast hands, he's got excellent timing, in which he showed, especially in that Sterling fight, and that accuracy as well. He's got great movement, in which he really showed in that Vera fight. I believe he was able to move excellently and really kind of make Vera look silly at times with some of the attacks in which he was going in for, in which he possibly could make Dvalishvili look silly with some of the attacks in which he goes for if he's moving like that. He finds his range excellently with a great jab, in which he's always kind of setting up with. He has great striking variation as well. I think he really showed a real just kind of arsenal which he has in that last fight, where he was throwing spinning back kicks, he was throwing knees, he was throwing his jab, of course, the uppercuts, the body shots, the leg kicks, everything. A great variety of strikes, and yeah, it was it really shows, like I say, his arsenal, which he has. He finds gaps really well. I think he mixes the tempo very well. Sometimes he'll fight at a slow pace and he'll pick his shots and he'll catch shots really well and things like that. But then when he wants to up the pace, he can up the pace, and that's when he can throw things like that knee, which landed so cleanly versus Vera, and then up the pace, and then it's hard to be able to keep up with. But like I say, he mixes that tempo really well. In general, I think he has got a good work rate. I think it's as good as Dvalishvili's? No, but I think it is a good work rate. He's got fluid footwork, great feints, possibly could make Dvalishvili commit to a strike with his feints. Has got very good head movement when he uses it, front and back foot type work, in which he can do very well. Counters very well and can be typically just out of range, in which might, like I say, make Dvalishvili look silly, being that shorter fighter, typically struggling to find range. Negatives about O'Malley: he has that weak to low guard. When it's a slow pace, he can catch shots nicely and he can look clean doing it. But when it's at a high pace, Dvalishvili can be quite unorthodox with some of his striking, so he could catch O'Malley with just a wild shot in which he throws when he rushes in. He has his chin in the air. I think perhaps overconfidence could be a thing, but coming into this fight, I'm not too sure of how confident he is. I think he's still, of course, has that persona about him in which is typically confident and relaxed and things like that, but I don't know. I think he senses there is a chance in which he can lose this one. He senses how much of a danger in which Dvalishvili does appear as a threat to him. I think he acknowledges that from Nurmagomedov as well, because he doesn't really seem to want to fight him, which makes sense because Nurmagomedov doesn't really have anything to give to O'Malley at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. Typically, you could say he's overconfident, but I'm not too sure coming into this one. Physicality, he's nowhere near as strong. I think Dvalishvili is a much stronger fighter out of the two physically. Fighting on the inside, I don't know how comfortable he is on that, which is the opposite to Dvalishvili. Pretty much, like I said, the two opposites fighting each other. He's comfortable. His comfort on the ground or being on his back, I don't think is especially amazing. I think from what I've heard, I mean, I was listening to, I believe, Cejudo say it in his podcast the other day, where Cejudo was saying that O'Malley is very good at being able to, and trains a lot, trying to get out of positions on his back quickly, and then when he gets put down on one, then just be able to quickly kind of react, scramble, and be able to get out, and use the mat to bounce in certain ways to be able to get out, and manoeuvre in certain ways to be able to get out of positions. But I don't believe he's wanting to be comfortably sat on his back at all, and so I don't really think he's training much wrestling, grappling, where he's actually, like I say, trying to just out physique Dvalishvili, which I think is smart. I think he is going to try and counter him when he can. I don't think he cuts off the cage too well, O'Malley. I think he was chasing around Vera quite a bit, and he does stand quite tall. And like I say, he doesn't really aim to attack when he's on the ground, and that's why, of course, he doesn't really have many submissions or only the one to his name. Speak about Dvalishvili as a fighter, he has that high guard. Like I say, the opposite to that of O'Malley, and perhaps he does seem to want to rush in. I think he said in interviews as well, he's pretty much, his game plan is to rush in, is to try and force his way in, and pretty much has said his game plan, but I think he just doesn't mind. I think he's just willing to take the fight wherever it needs to go. He's a pressure fighter, typically is quite relentless, and fights at a stupidly high work rate of all the things he's trying to do at once. It is a stupidly high work rate, but of course I believe this is his first round contest. I might be wrong, first fifth round contest, which, like I say, might be wrong, but that could even go into his favour even more. He just kind of holds on, to be honest, which can be frustrating. He can frustrate you when he's just holding on to you. He's strong, he's disciplined, he's very good at getting you to the ground or to the cage, and just, like I say, just holding on to you. I think he can make you nervous because he does come in very wildly, very recklessly, and if he is, like I say, gonna just get onto you, he will just hold on to you, and so perhaps he can make you nervous. I think he's confident, of course, coming into this fight. He's hard to control, even though perhaps it can be predictable at times. I think he is hard to control. He's an in-close type fighter. He wears you down, and he can take a shot as well from what I've seen. So he might be able to take counters or shots in general from O'Malley. Negatives about him: I don't think he really lets his hands go that well, or sometimes he won't let his hands go at all, and he can just kind of force his way in. He can, like I say, become predictable. His chin's in the air at times. When he just trades and stands and trades, he did that with, of course, Cejudo early on, and that's where he got caught and hurt. I just don't really think he's that good when he's standing and trading. He stands straight on a lot of the time. I don't think his balance is amazing when he is trading. He's been hurt, like I said, but also, like I said, I think he has got a good chin. His footwork isn't great at all. finding his range. Well, his footwork is really good when he's trying to trip you up, but his footwork in striking isn't amazing. Trying to find his range, I think he can struggle at. Forcing the fight, like I said, leaning his head in, being a bit wild, accuracy at times, and kind of going back and forth in straight lines can be a bit of a thing which might, like I say, help to becoming predictable. And if O'Malley can see that as a pattern, he might be able to counteract it. O'Malley is the favourite for this fight night. I think that Dvalishvili will win via a split decision. I think it's going to be in a really, really close fight. I hardly ever predict split decisions, but like I said, I think it could be some sort of decision, but a very close fight in which, like I say, Dvalishvili will just be able to outstrength him at times, and I think there could be a round or two in which Dvalishvili ends really well just by able to get O'Malley to the ground and just grappling onto him. I don't necessarily know if O'Malley's going to be able to time and hurt Dvalishvili. If he comes in with his hands up, if he tries to stand and trade with O'Malley, that's when he can get hurt. But I'm just not too sure if Dvalishvili is going to risk doing that. I don't believe that he should. But then, like I say, he'll be able to win via a close decision. Then, if that's the case, he probably will end up rematching him straight away. But if not, Nurmagomedov, like I say, is a great option in which, even if Dvalishvili, like I mentioned, loses, I would love to see that fight happen. Or Figueiredo is somebody else who's also getting himself in the mix, which I think if he's, I think he is around and he's there, so I think he could possibly deserve a chance at the title, of course, being the former champ at flyweight. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.